good, other than the fact I was sick for most of it, so didn't help out a whole lot either. But we did get a chance to do a little bit of holiday gaming around Christmas time. After this month's Savage Sunday was all holiday themed and holiday gaming. We had a couple of different games involving different things from the holiday. I ran one called Silent Night, Hungry Night, which I will not ruin the surprise by spoiling it here. But if you get a chance to play it, I highly recommend it.
It's a fun
And you
one.
also ran a game for us that weekend too, didn't you?
Yeah, I ran Savage Deadlands Noir Shan Fan, where it was investigating Santa's reindeer falling dead over Shan Fan and figuring out, trying to find Santa Claus.
Nice.
And finding out in the Deadlands universe who Santa really is.
I shudder to think what that could possibly mean.
But everybody seemed to have a great time, and that's all that I look for on that.
That was good. How was your holiday otherwise?
It was nice and peaceful. I had just a lot. Got to read a lot of the books. I got the Hell on Earth Companion, so I guzzled that down really, really quick.
Nice.
And yeah, we just kept it nice and easy.
Cool. Cool.
So we are going in now with Savage Sunday into getting new blood into there. This was
Hmm.
something that we first talked about Savage Sunday. You wanted to develop more game masters and things. So
Definitely.
how is this shaping up? How is this fitting into your master plan? Are there surprises as you're preparing for this? How is this going?
It's going okay. It's still a little bit early in the season to really talk about it. It's going to be on the 26th of the month, which is going to be just a week from Sunday. And we got a couple of leads. People have been talking about and doing things that are interested. They haven't quite committed yet, so I got to kind of get on their case and have them sign up for some stuff to make sure it happens. But the stuff that's coming up is that I've already heard about. Sounds like it's going to be a very good time. The idea with this month is because it's a new year. We want the theme for this month is New Year, New Blood. And so we want to see some new game masters. We want to see some new players. We want to see people who haven't come out before, who haven't either played with us or haven't run a game with us. So give it a shot. I know Jerry's planning on doing a fantasy game. Mike is talking about a couple of different options. One of his buddies is talking about bringing either a Gamma World conversion that he's done, or he has also done a Savage Worlds version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I
Ooh,
really want to play. I heard very good things. It ran at Con of the Cob last year, and I heard it was good times. So I'm kind of hoping he brings it.
me too.
So that'll what's that?
Said me too. I'm wanting to play this time.
I know that's what I'm saying is that, and that's also my goal too. Is I don't want to always have the same people having a run every month. You and I, we've talked about this a lot in the past. We both are on the side of we prefer running games to playing them, but I think it'd be a nice change of pace to see if we can have somebody else step up, take the reins, and sit behind the screen for a day, and then we can be around to assist and help out with it,
So
and
I was
give
just gonna
advice and
say, for
feedback.
people who are around the country who are listening and who are wanting to develop a Savage Sunday and develop a community like this, what advice do you get? Would you have for them?
Well, I think it's. I got to really give a lot of credit to the Buffalo Gamer Society. Already was an existing framework in place to get the word out to people and to communicate among the groups in order to let people know these events are happening. And Mark Napick, our buddy, has done a really great job of organizing this group. He's the guy behind Queen City Conquest. He's the guy behind all the game day events that go on. And there really is a very strong and thriving community here. There are probably more communities like that in your area. It's going to take a little while to build up that level of communication. But once you can kind of tap into that, then you can really get the word out fairly easily. Also, Dean from Dragon Snack has really been a huge help for us. He gives us the space to use it every month. He always helps us keep a schedule. He is always open communication. He doesn't charge us anything. It's like you couldn't ask for a better situation. So like I said, the key thing is get organized, be responsible about it, find people that are interested in the same type of games that you're going to play and the same sort of stuff you're going to run in. Um, do a regular event. I can't tell you how many times I see people going, "Well, let's change the dates, and I'll play whatever day anybody's available." really what you want to do is you want to pick a day and stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that, then people know that that's the day the event can happen, and they can make their arrangements around it. If you change it every month or you change it every week, people are going to have a harder time making those commitments. Um, so once you do that, then it's a matter of making sure that you have something that you can offer to players to get them to show up. You look at Buffalo. 6 months out of the year, the weather's not so great. The rest of the time, it's great, but other times, not so much. We're looking at about a foot of snow outside right now. So if you want to make sure that people are going to come out to your event, make sure you have something to offer them. That's why we do stuff like the free bennies and the golden benny promotion. So that way, people have a reason to keep coming back over and over again.
How about for developing the new blood? What advice do you have for that to develop the confidence of game masters to get more people off the player side and onto the game master side?
I think it's a big thing to help encourage those type of players, people who probably haven't taken up the reins in the past. Let them know that Savage Worlds is really an easy system to pick up and learn. The most complicated thing you're going to have to get your head around is the damage system.
Mm-hmm.
Once you kind of get that down, the rest of it's pretty easy to do. It's really easy to prep for. It's really easy to run. There's not a whole lot of rules involved. And even if you do change the rules, it doesn't break a whole lot. If you miss a rule or two, it's not going to hurt anything. So you really couldn't ask for a better system to start off with. It's a low price of entry. It doesn't take a lot of work to get involved with. You can use stuff that you have for other games. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to start with Savage Worlds. It's a great way to get started. It's getting over that hump of, well, I really have to prep and do all this stuff. It's like there's a lot of stuff out there that you can go out and grab. Download a one sheet, some free pre-gens from one of the Savage World sites or one of the licensees, or contact them and let them know that you're going to be doing a promotion. They'll probably be more than happy to send you information or send you some stuff to run or even send you some a swag to give away. There's really no reason not to.
When I was talking to Shane during the EtherCon thing, I was saying
Mhm.
like, I mean, they are the epitome of what the mom and pop shop should be,
Exactly.
and how the line of communication between the fans and the staff.
Mhm.
You just could not ask. There's no intimidation or no, oh, I don't. I feel comfortable approaching them or them saying, "Why are you coming to us?" There's none of that.
Right. Exactly. Everybody's always been friendly. The community has always been really open to new players. We're always willing to teach. We're always willing to have people hop on board. You can't go wrong.
So, what is this news that we've had from Savage Worlds in the
Uh,
last few
things are
weeks?
things are pretty quiet. It usually gets to be a little quiet around the holiday season. There's not a whole ton happening right now. They're still working on Savage Rifts, and they're still plowing away on that. So we're hoping to get that soon. The big news that we heard is that Ian World recently announced some information. Oh, they recently announced some news from the guys at Fantasy Grounds. They released the count for the most played games on Fantasy Grounds in 2015. Most of it is going to be D&D. Fifth edition D&D is still, a good half of the market as far as Ian World is concerned, or as far as Fantasy Grounds is concerned. And that's really no big surprise. And then you've got your variants, you got your D&D and 3.5 and so forth, and some of the older versions. But the really big surprise was that in the top five, Savage Worlds.
Beautiful.
Granted, it came in at number 5, but it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes you take notice.
Exactly. And that's something I've seen happen a lot. Is that usually it's right in the top 10 of games being played or talked about.
Well, there's so much that can be done with it. There's just so many
Exactly.
variants of whether you're into fantasy or pulp or supers or horror.
Hmm.
It can do anything, and there's just no reason not to use that as the go-to system.
Exactly.
Which brings me to the main thing I wanted to talk to you about. You've got an ETU game going, and as of last Friday, we did character creation on our ETU game, and are about to have send everybody to the roost
Ooh.
for orientation. So
Oh,
Tim,
nice.
what does an ETU GM need to know that makes about ETU versus okay, this is not this in Savage Worlds. This is how you make it ETU.
I think the key thing to think about with ETU is you do kind of want to have it be a little tongue in cheek, as opposed to kind of grim dark horror. ETU is sort of a setting that's more, it's closer to like Scooby Doo Goes to College rather than anything that's darker than that. So it's okay if things seem a little silly. That's all right though, because that's going to help when things get scary. It's going to help them feel a little more frightening. Also, I recommend playing up the aspects of being in a college. If people weren't familiar with it, East Texas University, all the player characters are students in a college where weird things happen. So if we want to really get them to buy into that concept, is highlight some of the stuff they have to do with the day-to-day activities. Make sure you know what everybody's major is. Make sure you know who the professors are for some of those classes. And that way you can use those NPCs to tie them directly into the action of the campaign overall. I had a lot of fun with it when we started our ETU campaign. What we did was we passed around 3x5 cards, and I had every player write down on the top of their sheet, the top of the card, the name of their character and their major. Then I told them to pass their card one space to the left. Then I had the person who had that card, the new card now, write down on the next line what the name of that person's roommate is and what their roommate's major is.
Hmm.
Then we did it again, and I had them write down what the professor's name of one of that person's classes and the class that professor teaches. Then I collect those cards, and now I have a ready-made set of two NPCs for every player character to build as part of the world, and that helped them get more invested in what was going on. When they know this guy is, I know that guy. He's my English professor, and he's kind of a jerk. I'm sort of glad he got eaten by a ghost. Uh,
That character's name is Chet in our game.
Chet.
Chet's the jerk.
Okay, it just sounds like a name for a jock frat boy.
Chet.
Chet. Chet. Yeah, and also make a lot of notes about stuff that characters mentioned during the game. We had a lot of fun with it too. An offhand improv night, one of our players mentioned a fraternity that was known for playing pranks on campus, and instantly those guys became, the nemesis of the player group. Is that they're always kind of playing practical jokes on each other. So sometimes they can be really mean and nasty practical jokes. Sometimes they can be, fairly innocuous. But that's just another thing that lends into the life of being a college student. Think back to your own college days of, hanging out in the dorms till way too late at night, or going to the football games on a Friday, and go out and getting way too drunk afterwards, and meeting a girl and falling for her, and then having your heart broken, and play up those aspects of it to really get them into that world, and then drop the weirdness on them.
How do you do that in between the cases and with how spreading things out over the course of the semester? Do you use the interlude system for that? Do you dictate these things? Do you let them run with these things on that? How do you do it?
We've done the interlude a couple of times, usually when there's a long gaps. We've been playing it very episodic. So every couple experience points they go is another few months worth of time. So largely we just kind of hand wave the time in between as being, um, this was time when you were studying or you were working or doing extra money or just being busy. And my plans are is that when they do a summer break, is that's when we're going to do interludes. When they go home for the 3 month period and they come back and here's what happened to me when I was away. So that way they can have that additional experience of being able to put more into their stories.
How do you work? How do you have you been doing with working in the academics aspect of having them taking the tests and things
Oh
and
yes.
spreading it out? Do you
Hmm.
surprise them on that? Do they know when it's coming? Does
Yes.
it line up well with the semester? If it's the way that you've been going.
It seems to work pretty well. One of the things I did is normally in most campaigns I give 3 experience points per session. For each of you, I want to try something a little different, and now I'm only giving 2 experience points per session. And what that does is that means that it's going to take them longer, but every couple of sessions they're going to hit one of those waypoints, and so every 5 experience points is half a semester. So that way they know at 5 experience points you've got midterms, at 10 experience points you've got finals. And same thing with 15 and 20 is at 15 you've got your midterm, your spring midterms, and then a 20 year at your end of the year finals, and so on. So that way they know exactly when those points are coming up and they know what they need to focus on at those stages. And then in between, intersperse that with plot points and Savage Tales, depending on what kind of character is involved and who shows up that particular night.
Hmm. And as for the creatures and the monsters, what are the difference between the monsters that you'd find in the Deadlands books versus the monsters that you use in ETU? Can you cross them back and forth? Is that a bad idea? Is
Um,
there what is the your thoughts on that?
I think you want to be very, very careful about doing that. Um, some of the Deadlands monsters are pretty nasty. Keep in mind that in Deadlands, you're probably going to have characters, you're probably going to have hucksters, you're probably going to have mad scientists, you're probably going to have blessed, you're probably going to have character types who already have a lot of arcane power and ability. In ETU, not so much. So they're not going to have access to Bolton. They're not going to have access to Blast. They're not going to have access to Quickness or all the powers that you would see in some of those more kind of high-powered Savage Worlds games. Um, so you want to be a little bit careful about that. I've largely focused on playing a lot of spirits and ghosts. A lot of the characters are occult oriented and know a little bit something about those types of creatures. So it makes it more sense for them to be able to go after those kinds of things. My plans are though is that going forward is that there are going to be a few more monsters showing up as things continue on as the campaign continues. Because at that point they'll have more experience under the belt and they'll be better equipped to handle that sorts of things. But yeah, like I said, be very, very careful about mixing and matching Deadlands creatures with pretty much anything else.
I was reading on some of the forums, and some people were taking the approach that they were going more XFiles with it, going
Mm-hmm.
more conspiracy of what's going on in the big thicket and what the people are doing
Mm-hmm.
under the noses of their. Have you gone with the people monsters much, or have you just been going
A
straight
little
to
bit.
there, or any advice for going with the X Files
Mhm.
version of ETU?
We've had a couple of different scenarios. It's largely been played sort of like similar to a monster of the week kind of idea, where things there's strange things that happen, but they don't necessarily have a intervening cause. I mean, if you're familiar with the Plot Point campaign, there is a cause for why weirdness happens
Mm-hmm.
around DTU, but that's a revelation that's happening further down the road. So they don't quite know anything about that yet. So when they encounter things, they're encountering either people who have been touched by the energy that lives around ECU, or by creatures that are drawn to it. So they dealt with a couple of they dealt with one girl who was um, actually come from one of the stories, or from one of the Savage Tales, who has started to use voodoo powers, and they never really worked for her before until she came to college. Then another guy who was working on an entomology professor or an entomology project and found himself able to control insects. So these are ordinary people who suddenly have scary powers presented to them or have the ability to use these scary powers. And then it becomes, well, what do you do? You can't, it's not like any other setting where you can just shoot the guy because somebody will notice he's not showing up for class anymore and there'll be an investigation. The police get involved and bad things will happen. So it's easy enough to do the more X-Files sort of conspiracy investigation type stuff. But ours has been a lot of more of the supernatural spirit kind of ghostbustery sort of thing.
Cool. How have you been with handing out rituals and them developing their arcane? Did you
Mhm.
do some things within the freshman year? Are you holding off till higher years before you
They've
deal with
gotten a
it?
couple. They've actually gotten a few. They've gotten so far. They've recovered one ritual that they've used fairly well, and they have also recovered an artifact. They still haven't quite figured out what it's supposed to do yet. And it makes me sad, um,
Mm.
but they will eventually, I hope. Um, I think that once you start introducing those kind of items, again, don't be too stingy with them. It is part of the world that ritualism exists, and it's something that they can find out. And having access to that is going to help them in the long run. Um, but at the same time, you want to make sure that it's a slower progression you might see with another classic role playing game like D&D or something similar.
The first, the orientation case that I came up with is called And Yes. It's basically what happens when the college improv troupe gets their hands on a ritual that basically does the puppet power.
Ah, that's oh god, that's never good.
So they're now more popular than the rock band at orientation.
I like it.
Cool. So what else do I need to know going into running ETU?
I think, like I said, it really have kick back and have fun with it. It's a really great setting. There's a lot of great atmosphere in it. Um, there's a lot of ways you can make that a lot of fun. We tied people pretty closely into the town. They've gotten to really to know some of the NPCs really well. Some of them are local fixtures, and that gets played up quite a bit. Where everybody is like, "Oh, I know you. You're such and such boy," or you work over the thing, and yeah, I know you're good kids, and come on in or whatever. And that gives them more sort of a sense of agency in the world. It's not something that they're completely alone in. They know what's going on. People know that they can be relied on, and they start to recognize when they start to get into trouble too, which can
Mm-hmm.
also lend complications as well. I really am. The thing I really like about it is the fact that it does make me, or it does remind me of my college days, of kind of going back then and thinking the sort of trouble I used to get into, and using those as sort of an aspect for the world.
My wife built her character as everything she never did in college. And like you're talking about handing the cards around,
Hmm.
basically I've had it where write your what do you do when you as soon as you get into town, and then it's supposed to be passed off to the next person. Writes themselves into it. My
Ah, okay.
my wife for her character Bonzo wrote in. I drive by the cemetery, see a hot looking chick statue with her head aimed up. I go pee in her mouth.
Oh,
The next character person is like, do I seriously have to write into myself into this? To which the answer is always yes.
yes, of course you do.
Yes. Great. Let me write down you are on the, wanted by the police already, and you haven't even entered the story yet. Or other characters are the character who went on to picked up my wife's character thing, got into a chase down the streets, evading cops, and found the goody two shoes student going watching and yelled and basically started insulting her, yelling, "What are you gonna rat us out?" So they're already got problems before they've even had their first session.
Oh, geez.
So how do you handle that kind of group?
I don't. My players don't do that sort of thing.
Your wife does not make characters that pee in the mouth of statues and
No, no, she doesn't.
cemeteries. No.
No, no, she does not. No, she decided she was going to play Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So now she's looking at me from around the corner. Yes, I'm talking about you, dear.
How much do you keep it the adventure in the college versus the town? How much should you involve Pine Box versus isolating things to the campus?
I think I think a healthy mix is probably your best option. You don't want to stick them on campus all the time because eventually that is going to seem sort of, you know, odd. But take them outside of town for a little bit. Take them out to the big thicket. Take them out to the quarries and so forth. We ran a really memorable session where when they hit 10 experience points, it was or just after they hit 10 experience points, they had it was the end of the semester, and so I basically said, all right, well, it's the end of the semester. That means it's Christmas time. You're stuck in during that break time between the end of classes and the beginning of exams. So you decided to have a Christmas party. So I said, all right, well, we're going to do a Secret Santa exchange. And so they had to go out shopping, and they had to find gifts for each other, for each character. They swapped cards around to figure who was going to buy for whom, and they had to go to pick up a Christmas tree and do decoration and run party stuff, and then terrible things happen while they were at the Christmas tree place. So you know that's the sort of thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
When you're around the town, you never know when things are going to go wrong. Or one scenario took place right after a football game. One of the Friday night football games that happens in Pine Box from the local team. There's lots of different ways that you can use the environment and use the town to give them more of a sense of where they are and what they're doing. Don't stick everything right on campus. There's lots to do on campus still, sure, but there's also stuff to do outside in town. I think having a healthy mix, just let it go. Figure out where the story is going to take you, and decide and make that decision at the day.
One of the coolest things I got to say to them was, "Okay, you get to buy your gear, And now you get to choose what car you have. It's like I get to give cars out to everybody now, which is the first time in a game I think I've ever gotten to do that.
Yeah, I know. That has not really come up nearly quite as often as I would like to. I think that's something I need to focus on a little bit more, as keep in mind of which car people have and what sort of downsides they all have, because everybody's car has that first car always has some sort of weirdness to it,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you have to kind of keep track of. That really hasn't come up too terribly often. It really should be made more apparent.
Yeah, most of my group has. There's just an epidemic of coolant leaks with most of my group's cars. My wife's car's got the one where the radio and headlights come on at the worst possible moments, so that'll be
Say
the one.
one of our cars has gremlins.
Are you going to use actual gremlins from the movies?
Well, duh. This is not my first radio, Garrett, but my photo, Garrett.
You're going to have your Mogwai in the research lab. Cool.
That's why.
Anything else about Savage Worlds that we need to know to be talking about, Tim?
Well, like I said, keep an eye on the webpage. There's probably gonna be an announcement about Savage Rifts as soon as possible. There's a few other things that are shipping right now. Then there's some other goodies that are available on the site. They started putting out some stuff for Rippers. Some of the Ripper stuff is starting to see the light of day. We're seeing Lankmar bennies starting to come out. I just saw just this morning that the Last Parsec core book is going to be available in print very soon.
Cool.
So keep an eye out for that, especially if you and like everybody else in the Western world has gone to see Star Wars already. If you started answering, getting antsy about some little bit of sci-fi action in your Savage Worlds, check out Last Parsec. You could do a lot worse than going on that road. But you're going to see the core book is going to be out for that very soon, too. Um, and like I said, so current release season is going to be a little bit late on product news. However, keep in mind that Gen Con badge registration is coming out very shortly. If you're going to be attending, there's going to be some giveaways for people who run games, Savage Worlds games at Gen Con. The folks at Gen Con did say that they have a list of games that people ask for a lot that never get filled, or they never have enough games to run to fill all the slots. Savage Worlds is definitely one of those. So the more Savage Worlds games we get on the schedule, you'll have people playing it. So if you're going to be at Gen Con, do yourself a favor, sign up for that through the website, and you'll be able to get some swag. Last year they were giving away some really really cool stuff. Everybody who was running games got printout cast of character cards from Drive Through RPG. This is the company that makes them. They print the character stats on one side of a playing card that and then I have all different sorts of ones for all different settings, and you got a free bonus one for running games for at Gen Con. It was really a nice little giveaway.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you, Savage Tim, for joining us.
Awesome. Anytime, Garrett.